Well, a state corrections officer sharing in her own words what she says was the worst night of her life, being sexually assaulted and held at gunpoint for hours by a convicted killer and rapist inside her workplace.
She's now suing the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. We want to warn you, some of the details may be difficult to hear. KCRA 3's Michelle Bandura explains what happened.
The lawsuit against the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation outlines the ordeal experienced by correctional officer Katie Jackson.
My life, along with my children, my family, and my fellow correctional officers, was threatened with death if I did not cooperate.
The mother of three thought she was going to be killed on the job January 20th, 2024, while working the evening shift at Sierra Conservation Center.
There were a lot of failed security measures within that institution that night, a lot of them. And it's heartbreaking because it could have easily been prevented, and it wasn't.
The facility houses low and medium security inmates, many who train for the firefighter program. Violent offenders are not supposed to stay there. Jackson's lawyers say Robert Lawrence Ransom Jr. should have never been transferred to Jamestown because of his violent background as a killer and rapist.
The California model failed. That's why we're here. It failed in a horrific manner.
The lawsuit states during the evening count, all inmates were accounted for and said to be secured in their cells. In reality, the document says Ransom was concealed within a laundry cart, and officers inexcusably failed to detect Ransom, declaring the cart clear. Lawyers called this a dereliction of duty. Jackson says, learning the officer's routines, Ransom disguised himself as an officer, and she mistakenly let him into the control booth.
What ensued after an inmate gained access to a highly restricted area was 4 hours of the most unimaginable horrors. I was strangled, I was held hostage at gunpoint, and I was raped multiple times.
Jackson says she convinced Ransom she would bring in drugs and weapons and convinced him to return to his cell. She says supervisors questioned her for 6 hours before going to the hospital, treating her as a suspect and not a victim. But she hopes the lawsuit will change the culture behind bars.
You are undermined constantly at every corner, and the inmates essentially have more rights and more power than you do as correctional officers.
In Sacramento, Michelle Bandura, KCRA 3 News.
The Tuolumne County attorney also filed 11 felonies against Ransom. He is already serving a life sentence with parole for the Los Angeles County crimes. He's expected in court next month. The CDCR would not comment on the lawsuit.
She was trusted by the school district and by parents. But tonight, a 5th grade teacher in Cape May Courthouse is accused of having a sexual relationship with one of her students. Detectives say the abuse started when the child was 11 and lasted for years, and that the two share a child. Wednesday night, I'm Shari Williams. Rick has the night off. The big story on Action News tonight is a South Jersey teacher behind bars accused of sexually assaulting a young boy and having a child with him. Action News reporter Leland Pender has the story from Cape May County, and detectives say the investigation is far from over.
Middle Township Police and the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office both investigating here. Prosecutors say these alleged crimes occurred between 2016 and 2020, but the arrest just coming Wednesday. They're now asking anyone that might have even more information to please come forward. Once a 5th grade teacher, now behind bars with bond revoked. 34-year-old Laura Karen was taken into custody at a home on Orbit Drive Wednesday in Cape May Courthouse. Prosecutors allege she sexually assaulted a former student for several years and had his baby.
Do you know Miss Karen? There's nothing to see here. There's no one that wants to speak with you.
This unidentified man pulled up to the home while we were there. A short time later, another woman appeared from the home after we'd already left.
Do you want to talk to us?
No, I want you to
You came outside. Please, I'm willing to talk to you.
Authorities say the abuse began when the victim was 11 years old. According to the criminal complaint, a few years later, Karen gave birth to the victim's baby. Karen taught at Middle Township Elementary No. 2, and the victim was once her student. Prosecutors say Karen and the victim's family became friends. leading to the victim and his siblings staying overnight with Karen once or twice a week, but at some point they began living with Karen permanently. Investigators say the case came to light last month when the victim's father posted on social media saying Karen's 5-year-old child looked very similar to him and his son. Neighbors say the arrest Wednesday appeared discreet. This woman said she saw multiple black SUVs but didn't realize they were police.
If it's true, I feel sorry for the people.
According to the prosecutor's office, the school district will have support services and counselors available for students, teachers, or families who may need that in light of this news. We did reach out to the school district for comment, but did not hear back. Here in the community of Cape May Courthouse, Leland Pender, Channel 6, Action News.
My name is Peter Ziegler, and I represent Vistra, a company who owns and operates the Moss Landing power plant. Just to reiterate, between 2 and 3 p.m. yesterday, we did our internal staff did discover a fire and we immediately engaged with North County Fire Department as per our procedures. One of the things that we started immediately was air monitoring from the onset, and we've been working collaboratively with the EPA, with the chief, and internally with Dynegy.
Heed the evacuation order. We don't take those things lightly when we issue them. There's a reason for it, and we're concerned about their safety. The number one priority is the protection of people's lives. Whether it's cooperating, when it's been in our favor, and all I can say is thank God for that, because wind, as we know, what happened in Southern California does crazy things, and so we're not dealing with that, fortunately.
Hundreds of people were ordered to evacuate, and a part of Highway 1 in Northern California was closed as a major fire erupted on Thursday afternoon at one of the world's largest battery storage plants. Take a look.
rainfall hit several cities in the southern Brazilian state of Santa Catarina. The heavy rain through the night caused widespread flooding and major disruptions. Dubbed Brazil's Dubai, the region saw nearly 6 centimeters of rain overnight, causing road closures and affecting livelihood. A shopping center was also heavily damaged and shuttered as a result of the flooding. Video shot by the Santa Catarina Military Fire Brigade shows several streets flooded, with people walking in water reaching chest height in some areas. Rescue teams are at work and they are rescuing families from the severe flooding of the city. Florianopolis mayor has announced the closure of roads. Residents have been urged to stay home to allow repair crews and emergency vehicles access to northern part of the island and other areas. Authorities have also alerted locals to be on alert for landslides. Landslides following torrential rain are not uncommon in Brazil in the rainy season. Neighborhoods precariously built on steep hillsides are the worst hit.
A água está quase no pescoço, então Defesa Civil, Corpo de Bombeiros, Prefeitura, FAP, estão tudo aqui resgatando, mas quem tiver barco, a gente solicita ajuda aqui.
According to reports, Chinese state-sponsored hackers allegedly accessed the U.S. Department of Treasury's system, including the U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's computer and files. Now, the attackers reportedly also hacked the computers of 2 of Yellen's lieutenants, Deputy Secretary Wally Adeyemo and Acting Undersecretary Brad Smith. The hackers reportedly targeted over 400 personal computers and devices within the Treasury Department, gaining access to more than 3,000 files. This includes around 50 files from Yellen's computer. And among the stolen data were documents connected to the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, which is responsible for reviewing the national security implications of foreign investments. Reports suggest the hackers gained access to the system by exploiting vulnerability in a third-party software responsible for providing services related to promote access of systems. However, these hackers did not break into the department's email or classified systems. Investigators allege Silk Typhoon, which is a Chinese state-sponsored hacking group, is behind the attack. The breach was reportedly discovered in December. The latest incident comes right on the heels of another China-related snooping incident, in what is said to be the worst telecom hack in the U.S. history. A China-backed hacking group called Salt Typhoon is said to have targeted several U.S. telecommunication firms. The group has also been accused of obtaining call record metadata of Kamala Harris and President-elect Donald Trump.
And 5 civilians were killed in Turkish airstrikes near Tishrin Dam in north and east Syria. According to health authorities in the region, Turkish forces carried out a drone attack on a civilian convoy headed to the dam to protest ongoing Turkish aggression against the Syrian Democratic Forces. Medical workers were among those killed in the strike that hit 5 ambulances. The authorities said around 40 civilians were injured in the offensive. The Democratic Autonomous Administration of the region of North and East Syria issued a strong statement condemning the targeting of civilians by Turkish forces and their proxies in the Syrian National Army. The strikes took place amid Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan issuing warning to crush all terrorist organizations in Syria. On Wednesday, Erdogan urged all countries to take their hands off Syria, saying Turkey had the capacity and the ability to crush all terrorist organizations in the country, including Kurdish militia and Islamic State. Meanwhile, U.S. Central Command Commander General Michael Eric Kurilla traveled to Syria on Thursday. Kurilla met with U.S. military commanders and service members as well as their defeat ISIS partners. The PKK-YPG led Syrian Democratic Forces to assess the ongoing campaign to prevent the resurgence of ISIS in the region. He also visited the Al-Hol camp in northern Syria, which is run by the PKK and YPG group. Turkey has long complained of the U.S. working with PKK-YPG on the pretext of fighting ISIS. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan earlier sent an ultimatum to the PKK-YPG group, to leave Syria face a potential military operation. In other development, Qatar has called on Israel to immediately withdraw from its buffer zone with Syria after Israeli troops entered the area following Bashar al-Assad's fall. During his first visit to Damascus since Islamist-led forces seized power last month, the Qatari Prime Minister at a press conference with Syrian leader Ahmad al-Sharaa said that the Israeli occupation seizure of buffer zone is a reckless act and it must immediately withdraw.
I would like to emphasize in this context that the Israeli occupation seizure of buffer zone areas is a reckless and condemned act, and it must immediately withdraw.
He also vowed to support the rehabilitation of Syria's infrastructure, devastated by nearly 14 years of civil war. The agreement includes supplying power with a capacity of 200 megawatts and gradually increasing production. Last week, Syria's national electricity company said Qatar and Turkey will send power ships to increase supply after the US eased some sanctions.
I love America. You love it too. My deepest appreciation to our amazing First Lady who's with me in the Oval today. For our entire family. You're the love of my life and the lives of my love. My eternal thanks to you, the American people. After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith.
Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rachak, with Hajj, double honors, to the apostles, the bishops, the elders, a great millstone, peace of blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, Shalom, Yeshua, Shalom. All right, so world news with commentary, and so you heard, which that's, been a couple days now. I think I listened to it that first night it came up, but I really didn't get too into it. I still really haven't. But there's one thing that stood out to me when he talked about the keepers of the flame, all right? Because he's talking, as if America's about to go down. In a sense, not that's exactly what he's saying. I'm just speaking, in a sense, like America was about to go down, and it's up to you guys to be the keeper of the flame. And he's basically hitting at what? Making America great again. But what does making America great again mean? Okay. Because they also had the slogan with Kamala, right? We're not going back, right? What are you not going back to? The regular way, because you're going to the new way. What's the new way? The new world order. Well, how's that set up? Through a digital means, right? A digital age. So making America great again is going to be through a digital mean, all right? A new, a false industrial revolution, like Dr. Evil would say, okay? So when he says keeper of the flame, it says the phrase keepers of the flame originates from ancient cultures where a designated person within a tribe will be responsible for maintaining a sacred fire, literally keeping the flame alive, often as a symbol of their heritage, memory, or community spirit. Thus, keeper of the flame metaphorically refers to someone who actively preserves and protects an important tradition, idea, or legacy. And what was he speaking about? He was talking about Babylon the Great, okay? As the torch is now being passed to Trump. Okay, so it says key points about the origin. Symbolic fire in many ancient societies, fire held deep spiritual significance, and keeping it burning was considered crucial. All right, the keeper of the flame was a designated individual within a tribe whose primary duty was to ensure the fire never went out. Today, keeper of the flame is used figuratively to describe someone who actively maintains and promotes a cause, belief, or memory. A memory of what? Babylon the Great, keeping it going because they're moving to that new age, all right? The new world order that the elites have planned, all right? They know about it, okay? And the keeper of the flame now, they put that to who? That Lady Liberty, right? Let's go and get this. So it says the Statue of Liberty, all right? was a gift from France to the United States to celebrate the centennial of the Declaration of Independence and the alliance between the two countries during the American Revolution. The American Revolution wasn't a revolution for you Israelites, okay? America was established by getting its independence. These Edomites here getting their independence from those Edomites back east in Britain, England, or whatever, right? That's what the Revolutionary Wars was stemmed around, right? Their 4th of July was stemmed around, okay? The French, the Spanish, and the British having those Revolutionary Wars. America obviously coming out on top and gaining their independence, all right? So it says, Declaration of Independence and the alliance between the two countries during the American Revolution. The statue was designed by French sculptor Auguste or whatever, Auguste Bartholdi, and presented to the United States in 1885. All right. It says origins. Edouard de la Bollier proposal. In 1865, French political intellectual and abolitionist Edouard de la Bollier proposed the idea of the statue. He was inspired by the recent abolition of slavery in the United States and the close relationship between the two countries. All right. But of course, we know 4th of July had nothing to do with you Israelites. Any kind of independence dealing with America has nothing to do with you Israelites. All right. You were slaves. This place was built off the blood, sweat, tears, rape, robbery, stealing, killing the village off the backs of Israelites, as well as based on witchcraft, sorcery, and magic, because that's where they hang on. Okay. Like it says in Habakkuk, all right, chapter 2, mentioned where it says the stone, the wood crowded the timber, something like that. All right. But woe to those that, establish a city by blood and iniquity. Just roughly paraphrasing. Bartholdi returned to France in 1872 and reported that Bedloes Island in New York Harbor was the perfect site for the statue. Symbolism. The statue's crown represents light, right? We know because it has 7 little horns on top, right? I believe it's 7, if I'm correct. 7 little rays of light. It says the statue's crown represents light with spikes that symbolize sun rays. You see? It says the tablet on the statue is inscribed with July 4th, 1776 in what? Roman numerals. The broken shackle and chains at the statue's foot symbolize the end of slavery. Sure it does, if you say so. But anyways, now it says, it talks about the crown representing light with spikes that symbolize sun rays. That goes back to the Greek god Helios, okay, which there's a Roman equivalent, all right? The Sol, Sol Invictus or something like that. All right, so the Roman sun god, Sol Invictus, all right? Greek, which the Greeks are also Edomites, just like the Romans are Edomites. They just came first. All right, so you had the Greek equivalent. You had the Greek god, and then you had a Roman equivalent later on because, all right, the Greeks came into power, and they were Edomites, and then later on, the Romans came into power, who were also the same Edomites, all right? So it says the Roman sun god, so in the Greek, it will be Helios, all right? The same sun god, okay? In which they stole that from ancient cultures because, people do the sun god Ra and all this kind of stuff like that. Well, remember, all right? Now, the Edomites also took over Egypt, all right? The Ptolemaic dynasty, they took over Egypt. So a lot of those things they took to themselves, just like, Esau does on a normal. So it says the Roman sun god was Sol Invictus, whose name translates to conquered sun. Excuse me. It says Sol Indiges, the original Roman sun god, Sol Indiges, was worshipped in the eternal city. His cult was in decline by the 1st century AD. All right. Elagabalus, the Syrian sun god, who may have influenced the creation of Sol. You see, there's Syrians, all right? We just spoke about the Egyptians. Now here the Syrians in the mix. All right. It says Sol Invictus, a combination of Sol Indiges and Elagabalus. Sol Invictus was the official sun god of the late Roman Empire. All right. Emperor Aurelian revived the cult of Sol Invictus in 274 AD and promoted him as the chief god of the empire. Emperor Constantine I legalized Christianity and restricted paganism, ending the prominence of Sol Invictus. Actually, which, if I'm correct, Constantine I was an Israelite, but what he did was he merged things together. Okay, very, very, very slick, but he merged things together. Okay, so he wasn't really. It wasn't just called what they call East of Rome, Holy Roman Empire. That was the name given to it, but there was a lot of kinks inside that. All right, when you go and seeing exactly what Constantine did. All right, so it wasn't just perfect and holy like it said. Okay, because he was merging things together. All right. Sol Invictus was the Roman god of the sun. He likely originated as a combination of Sol Indiges and the ancient Roman sun god and the Syrian sun god Elagabalus, while worship of Sol Invictus, whose name meant the unconquered sun, started in about 100 CE. It would take another century before he rose to prominence. And so that's pretty much it right there. Just, and I'll probably, it's probably something else to be more deeper into that, what he said, okay? Talking about being keepers of the flame. All right, continuing on and keeping the torch, keeping it bright, and so on, continuing on a fight. Basically, he's saying keep the fight for America. All right, and they're giving you false hope because the scriptures say that we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. All right, the Lord's planning on destroying Babylon the Great, but you have these people lying to you in your faces on television every single day, telling you that they're going to build back better and make things great again, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And these people are actually about to crack down the hammer on you. When I see these people, it's not actually talking about your presidents and all these officials. It's these wicked elite banking families, but you get the picture there. All right, you're giving false hope if you're believing in these things. So that's all I have for you. We'll finish out the news. Lord, will you edify? Shalom.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan welcomes the return to the White House of Donald Trump, who Erdogan sees as a man with whom he can do business.
Both leaders, they approach these diplomatic relations from a transactional point of view. Mr. Erdogan thinks that, like himself, Mr. Trump also is a pragmatic figure, and that this time around he may follow through his promise to withdraw completely from Syria.
Trump, in his first term, called for the withdrawal of US forces deployed in Syria to support the YPG, a Kurdish militia fighting Islamic State militants. Ankara sees the YPG as a terrorist group. However, analysts warn with the ousting of the Assad regime in Syria and the uncertainty over Syria's new Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, leadership, makes it unlikely there'll be a US pullout anytime soon.
Not to have the ISIS resurgence again, or this HTS presenting a threat to the United States, they would be interested in protecting the YPG and the Kurds, their alliance with the Kurds. We already have the Vice President J.D. Vance pointing out the ISIS.
Ankara shared concern with Washington over Iran's regional influence, also gives Erdogan and Trump an opportunity to work together.
Trump administration is coming in with a desire to stabilize relations with Turkey. And we are likely to see more and more of a personal rapport, personal relationship, which had been missing during the Biden administration. President Erdogan and President Trump will get along famously. But it does not mean Turkey gets all of its policy options.
Erdogan hopes the Trump administration will get the US Congress to lift an embargo on the sale of F-35 fighter jets. Ankara could also play a facilitating role in any Trump effort to end Russia's war in Ukraine, given Erdogan's close ties with both countries.
If Trump is pushing for ceasefire in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, in this case, on the contrary, Turkey could be very helpful as a potential mediator. So Turkey could be very helpful to the U.S. policy. Now, there are, of course, pitfalls. So what happens in Syria could be a test for the U.S.-Turkey relationship very early on.
In his first term, Trump threatened to obliterate the Turkish economy over Erdogan's threats to attack US-backed Kurdish forces in Syria, causing the Turkish currency to crash. Analysts say the current weakness of the Turkish economy will be reason for Erdogan to tread more carefully this time. Dorian Jones, VOA News, Istanbul.
Right now, President-elect Donald Trump's team is finalizing executive orders on immigration.
CNN is reporting they could be released hours after he's sworn in on Monday. CBS 8's Chris Grow live near the border in San Ysidro with the fears that many immigrants are facing right now. Chris?
Can't even imagine that uncertainty right now, being at home, wondering whether or not you, yourself, your family members could potentially be deported, how quickly, all of that running through those scenarios and trying to work with advocates like the ones in Texas, here in California, the ones that our sister stations have spoken with to get an idea of exactly how those in the immigrant community are feeling right now. Take a listen.
A lot of distrust, and also what they're worried about being separated as a family.
Know what agencies are available to assist you in the event that you get detained, and to always know that you have the right to have an attorney advise you on both the criminal and the immigration impacts.
And then, of course, the reason why there's this uncertainty is because of promises made by President-elect Trump, as well as some of his cabinet picks on the campaign trail and even after they won the election. According to CNN, executive actions that could be taken as soon as President Trump is sworn in could include U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement sweeps in major cities, sending more Pentagon resources to the U.S. southern border, placing additional restrictions on who is eligible to enter the U.S., and then this one, for those who are already here seeking citizenship in the U.S., the rollback of Biden-era policies and mass deportations. According to some experts, there are about 11 million immigrants estimated to be living in the U.S. right now. And the other side to this, though, is that some are preaching patience here, because with 11 million potentially or more, that there could be a very long and lengthy process to carry out deportations, and that it could not be as simple as maybe those in the Trump administration are saying. But back out here live, we are also seeing reports, according to the Associated Press, of those who are not willing to take that chance of waiting and are actually self-deporting, going to other countries, like one woman that the AP profiled who went from Nicaragua to the U.S., and then as soon as Trump was elected and they started hearing again some of those promises, has now moved to Ireland to seek their citizenship there.
Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence expressed support for Taiwan during his first visit to Taipei, ahead of an expected meeting with President Lai Ching-te.
On the eve of a new American administration, I stand in Taiwan now to say to my countrymen, for the security and the future of freedom and prosperity for America and all of our allies across the Pacific, America stands with Taiwan.
Pence was speaking at an event hosted by a local language institute and a foundation linked to Purdue University of his home state of Indiana. U.S. outlet The Hill reported that Pence was in Taiwan to meet with President Lai and senior tech leaders. The previous day, he participated in a business leader forum in Hong Kong.
On the coast of the occupied Berdyansk in the Zaporizhia region, contaminated areas of over 14 kilometers in length have already been recorded, as shown by Sentinel-2 satellite images. Due to currents and winds, the fuel spill is likely to continue moving westward, threatening the coast of the occupied Mariupol.
The most dangerous aspect of the fuel spill is its impact on marine mammals such as dolphins, large fish species, and sharks. Scientists believe that the abnormal number of dead dolphins observed over the past 2 weeks in the Black Sea is directly related to the contamination from the fuel. This catastrophe could lead to a very specific decline in biodiversity among larger species of Black Sea fauna. Yevgen Khlobystov, professor of environmental studies at National University of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, from the research.
On December 15th, the 136-meter Russian tanker Volgonev 212 split in half in the Kerch Strait. The bow section sank, and another vessel, the 132-meter tanker Volgonev 239, was damaged. According to Greenpeace Ukraine, nearly 4,300 tons of fuel oil leaked into the sea. Despite attempts of the occupying authorities to mitigate the effects, the Environmental natural disaster continues to worsen. Environmentalists estimate it will take about 10 years to overcome the aftermath of the spill. In less than a month, about 60 dolphins and hundreds of birds have died from the oil. Among the rescued birds from the Kuban region, less than 17% survived, according to the Stavropol Bird Rehabilitation Center Pelican.
We received 1,051 birds. As of the evening of January 13th, 175 individuals survived, 160 of which are stable in enclosures, and 15 are in a stationary facility under close observation, from a report by the Stavropol Bird Rehabilitation Center Pelican on Telegram.
According to Russia's Ministry of Emergency Situations, rescuers and volunteers have collected over 162,000 tons of contaminated sand from beaches in Krasnodarsk Krai, annexed Crimea and Sevastopol, removing nearly 39,000 tons of it. The fuel oil is destroying the Crimean nature reserves.
This disaster was entirely caused by Russia, which, controlling the Sea of Azov and large parts of the Black Sea, uses maritime transport vessels that are unsuitable for such operations. This accident is a catastrophe and fully Russia's responsibility.
Ukraine's first Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources, Olena Kramarenko, stated that Ukraine plans to file a lawsuit against Russia in international courts, including the International Court of Justice for violation the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. According to the documents, the tankers should not have been operating in the strait after November. Furthermore, the Volgonev 239 tanker should not have been in operation at all, as its classification certificate had expired.
No effective measures will be taken by Russia. The Volgonev tanker is leaving through the Sea of Azov into the Kerch Strait, where oil is being transferred onto tankers of the Grey Fleet with their modification systems switched off. This oil is no longer Russian but of unknown origin.
Using hundreds of outdated or defective tankers, which are only formally issued, Russia bypasses the price cap on crude oil exports. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock stated that Putin poses a danger to the Baltic Sea by using the Shadow Fleet to evade sanctions. Sanctions against Russia's Shadow Fleet were included in the EU's 15th sanctions package. The United Kingdom and the United States have also introduced new extensive restrictions targeting Russia's oil sector. Reported by Katerina Bastun, Victoria Smirnova, UATV News.
All right, and Russia has accused NATO of taking advantage of the suspected sabotage of undersea cables in recent months.
This is to increase the alliance's military presence in the Baltic Sea. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova has said that the West's real goal is to limit the export of Russian oil by any means.
Of course, the European Union was joined by NATO in its entirety right away. It took advantage of the situation to boost the alliance's military presence in the Baltic Sea. This all might look like another piece of absurd theatre if it did not have all the signs of a long and carefully thought-out plan.
The statement came amid British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's visit to Kyiv. During the unannounced visit, Starmer signed a 100-year partnership agreement with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. This was part of a European show of support and promises to keep helping Ukraine.
After signing the partnership agreement, Starmer visited a drone exhibition and a Kyiv school. This was his first trip to Ukraine since he took office in July, though he said that it was his 7th meeting with Zelensky. Starmer promised that the UK would play its full part in guaranteeing Ukraine's post-war security.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I do and have indicated that we will play our full part because this isn't just about sovereignty in Ukraine, although of course it's about that. It's about what the impact is back in the United Kingdom and our values, our freedom, our democracy, because if Russia succeeds in this aggression, it will impact all of us for a very, very long time.
Zelensky also said that the two leaders discussed an idea floated by French President Emmanuel Macron for Western troops to monitor a future ceasefire. But he said that it's a bit too early to talk about the details.
Starmer's visit came just days before Donald Trump takes oath as U.S. president. Trump's push for a quick end to the war has triggered concern among Kyiv's allies. European powers are preparing for Trump's return to the office, concerned that a settlement could be imposed on terms favorable to Russia and not Ukraine.
As the war nears the 3-year mark, both Russia and Ukraine are pushing for battlefield gains before possible peace talks. And the UN has reiterated the humanitarian situation in Ukraine remains dire. Security Council officials reported that the total number of civilians killed and injured in 2024 was 30% higher than the year before. Roughly 36% of the population will require assistance this year, with $2.6 billion needed to address their needs.
Every year, thousands of Indian students go to Canada with dreams of higher education, better job opportunities and brighter future. However, in 2024, a shocking report from Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada revealed that nearly 50,000 international students did not attend their college after arriving in Canada. What's more concerning is that almost 20,000 of these missing students were from India. This has raised serious concern about the misuse of student visa and how Indian students are being caught in a system full of loopholes and fraudulent practices. Indian students make up a huge percentage of Canada's international student population, but many are reportedly using study visas as a way to enter Canada and then disappearing. Some are working illegally while others are applying for permanent residency without actually completing their studies. With that, there are also reports of some students using Canada as a transit point to cross into the United States illegally. The Canadian government has strict rules that requires colleges to report students' attendance twice a year to make sure that students are actually studying. However, it turns out that many students are not showing up at their assigned colleges after reaching Canada, making it very clear that something is seriously wrong. While this issue is more noticeable among Indian students, Canada is also seeing a similar problem with students from other countries as well. According to data, students from 144 different countries were found to be not compliant with their study permit. Let me give you an example. 4,279 students from China, that's approximately 6.4%, did not attend the college, while 688 students from the Philippines, 2.2%, were also missing with that. Now, the problem was even worse for Iran, 11.6%, and Rwanda, 48.1%. where a significant percentage of students disappear. However, since Indian students form the largest group of international students in Canada, they are facing the most scrutiny from the authorities. As soon as this issue came to the light, Indian law enforcement agencies launched an investigation into possible links between fraudulent education consultant, Canadian colleges, and illegal immigration network. Reports suggest that certain agents in India, specifically in Punjab and Gujarat, are charging lakhs of rupees to help students get visa under false colleges. These agents are allegedly working with some lesser-known private colleges in Canada, which may not have proper education facility, but they are still accepting students to help them enter Canada. Now, in some cases, students are even given fake admission letter, and once they reach to Canada, they just disappear and start working instead of attending the college. Another shocking revelation is that many Indian students are not even planning to stay in Canada, but instead cross into the United States illegally. There have been multiple cases of Indian students being caught while attempting to enter the US through Canada-US border. Now, this has further strained relationship between both India and Canada, as Canadian authorities are now questioning whether India is doing enough to prevent student visa fraud or not. In response to its growing problem, the Canadian government has introduced the stricter rules to prevent the misuse of student visa. In the meantime, Immigration Minister Mark Miller has stated that colleges that fail to report missing students will face penalties. Some experts have suggested that international students should be required to pay full tuition fee upfront to make sure that they actually are serious about studying. Additionally, there is a lot of confusion in Canada's student visa data. While Statistics Canada estimated over 1 million valid student visa back in April 2024, the IRCC's records show much lesser number based on actual enrollments. Now, this has led to questions about how many students are actually in Canada, but they are not studying. Now, this case could have a huge impact on future of Indian students who genuinely want to study in Canada. The Canadian government may become even stricter with student visa, which could make it harder for deserving students to get admission and work permit. Already, there is talk of limiting the number of student visa issued to Indian applicants, which could affect thousands of students who genuinely want to study abroad. It also highlights the urgent need for Indian students and parents to be extra careful when choosing education consultants. Many fake agents charge high fees and they promise guaranteed admission. But once the student reach Canada, they struggle with proper documentation or any kind of support. The Indian government needs to take strong action against fraudulent visa consultants and ensure that students are not being misled. At the very same time, Canada must increase transparency in student visa processing and restrict foreign consultants from handling applications and ensure that colleges properly verify student attendance. Now, for thousands of young Indians, studying in Canada is just like a dream. But if students continue misusing visas, it could become much harder for future applicants to get study permit or even work opportunity. Here, both India and Canada must work together to fix this growing problem before it damages the future of Indian students abroad.